he's like, you got half our strippers fired because you guys were doing illegal shit. My life changed in a matter of 10 minutes. We went on a trip to the Bahamas. I went to the stripper bar. They took all 25 of us to the second floor, probably 20 to 25 of them. Little did I know, we had 8 cop cars waiting for us out of this traffic jam. I went through a divorce, lost my job, and had a $20,000 stripper bill. I was born with bacterial spinal meningitis. I was given 2 hours to live and had like 350 seizures. I don't remember any of this, obviously, but basically what happened is they gave me the last rites. They thought I was going to die, and I survived, and I started to talk immediately, cooing. And the doctor told my mom that this kid's going to have a story to tell in his life. And ironically, I wrote a book called Beautifully Dysfunctional, and I never intended to write a book, Todd. Like I said in the beginning, going back 15 years, my life changed in a matter of 10 minutes. If you would have seen me then, I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in a job, just won President's Club for an oncology diagnostics company, happily married, 2 young boys, working out every day. Everything's looking great. So about 3 months after I won President's Club, we went on a trip to the Bahamas from the company. Driving to Tiffin, Ohio was a very cold, blustery day, and it was kind of like a metaphor for the shit that lied ahead. And basically what happened, Todd, is I got a call from my boss who said, your numbers aren't doing very well. You're on a performance improvement plan. And if any of your audience doesn't know what that means, basically you're on probation with the company. You have 1 foot out the door. Chances are you're going to get fired. It was so bipolar to me because I had just become #1 sales rep in the United States a few months earlier. 10 minutes later, I'm walking into Tiffin Hospital, and my mom called. And I found out that my sister Holly had metastatic colon cancer. And when I did my TED Talk, I talked about like having a movie where it looks at you 360, and it just was one gut punch after another. And what happened then is life really went sideways overall. Fast forward 18 months, my sister Holly succumbed to colon cancer. I went through a divorce, lost my job, and had a $20,000 stripper bill. All at 6 months.
You say it like that's normal, man. So let's dig into the easiest one first, the $20,000 stripper bill. And we are talking about female entertainers, right?
Yes, female entertainers.
Not like paint stripper.
No, they were all there. That's for sure.
So how did you get there?
Man, my addiction was really getting bad.
Yeah. And so what were you addicted to, Troy, though?
Alcohol. And it's funny is I taught myself to not think that I was an alcoholic because I would go from vodka and beer, and I retired to wine and White Claws. So I was kind of a pussy when it came to drinking. And I thought, hey, who's an alcoholic that drinks White Claws and wine? Well, when you're drinking 3 bottles a night, about 10 chasers of seltzer, vodka seltzers. And I think part of it, Todd, was that I couldn't live in quiet. There was so much chaos that happened in my life that I couldn't, so I had to numb myself. I went, this is a fake eye here. I lost my eye like 5 years ago. I had 22 surgeries over 17 years, chronic pain, you name it. And I would try to numb myself with alcohol. But the biggest impact was losing my sister Holly. And when you lose a sibling, and then you become older than that sibling because they're gone, I was the youngest of 3, it really starts to hit you. And what I did was I would numb myself with alcohol. And getting back to the stripper story, you want to hear the whole thing? Because it's good.
Let's hear it, man. Let's hear the whole story.
All right. So
I don't know if I want to hear it, but I'm sure that everybody out here wants to hear it, and Miles and Marquise want to hear it.
Yeah. Mom, if you're listening, she's going to be so proud of me right now. So we end up going to Pittsburgh for a soccer tournament. And I don't play soccer. I coached it. But my friends knew that I was kind of lonely at that time. The divorce papers were signed. I was single. And they picked me up. We went to Pittsburgh, had this soccer tournament. They let me play in it. I write in the book. I was playing soccer. I fell over. My shirt went over my head. My tits and my gunt were out. It was nice, embarrassing. But I love Chris Farley, so I wanted everybody to laugh when I did stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
So we're pounding beers left and right, and my friend is driving to the hotel, and he sees these pretty ladies, and he shakes his beer and starts drinking it. 5 minutes later, there's a traffic jam. Little did I know, we had 8 cop cars waiting for us out of this traffic jam. So the police come up to us, knock on our window. They said, "Hey, we're looking for 4 gentlemen in a Volkswagen van, gray." I'm like, damn, it's the exact car we were driving. So the police came, and there was like an angel from God. The sheriff came and let us go. There was this police officer that wanted to send us to jail. We had our shirts off, tattoos everywhere. We looked like just Motley Crue, needless to say. So you may be thinking to yourself, Troy, man, God's with you. Go to a hotel, go to bed. Hell no. We raised up shots, drank. It's like, we're going to party our fucking asses off tonight. So we ended up going out to eat. That slows your buzz down. And then we went to the stripper bar. And I walked in, and I am very visually impaired. So when it's dark, I walk into walls and shit. I can't see very well. And they took all 25 of us to the second floor. And it was just a slew of women coming through this door, probably 20 to 25 of them. Next thing you know, we're getting lap dances, private rooms, shit's happening. And I don't remember like 6 hours of the night. So I did a drug that night that I've never done before, and it made me very hyper, and it just fueled the alcohol intake. Wake up the next day. If you've ever seen the movie Hangover, that's what it looked like, except for the chicken and the tiger. We had everything else, man. Shit was everywhere.
No tiger, though, huh?
No tiger.
No Mike Tyson.
No Mike Tyson.
You guys are boring, bro.
Totally boring. So this is when the story really gets nuts. So I drive home with my friends, and we are hungover as hell. And I get home, and I start getting these phone calls from my credit card companies, MasterCard, Visa. Mr. Hasslinger, we see that you had a $10,000 charge at this gentleman's club. Now, you got to understand who I am, Todd. I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school my whole life. Guilt is my middle name. I mean, it's just, I'm all fucked up that way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you got to be kidding me. I didn't believe it at first. I called my friends. They're like, oh, somebody's joking with you. Visa called first. MasterCard called second, said I had another 10,000. So I end up having to call the owner of the strip club and say, sir, if you don't mind, I'd like to, defend these charges and say, this is not me. There must be some sort of mistake. And he's like, you motherfucker, do you know what you did to us last night? And I'm like, crap. Because I'm not a big arguer. Like, I don't like conflict, never have. He's like, you got half our strippers fired because you guys were doing illegal shit to my club. He's like, if you want, I can sue you. And with that, I called all my friends. I said, I'm in 20 large for the stripper bill. You guys got to help me. They were all married. None of them could. And I get it. But the problem was my severance from the job I just lost took care of the stripper bill. So I was out all that money. And the drinking just got worse and worse, just numbing myself. What I did is, I'll tell you a beautiful story about my sister. Kind of all over the place, but this is how my ADHD mind works. So I was in Dearborn, Michigan, and I was watching ESPN, and we were doing like shifts with my sister. She had metastatic colon cancer. She had a hepatic arterial infusion that dislodged from her liver, and she bled out 80%. We knew time was limited, and so last night I saw her, gave her a kiss. Her name's Holly. And went to Dearborn, Michigan to work. Called my mom the next morning. She's like, you got to get here. It's getting that time. Walk in, and my brother-in-law says, I want to tell you a story and show you a picture. This is how much of a badass my sister is. Her saying was, life is good no matter what. My mom got up and brushed my sister's hair for the last time. And my sister, who hadn't been out of her bed in 2 weeks, stood up and she brushed her daughter's hair for the last time. And Holly went to sleep and never woke up again. So it was pretty amazing. You know, it was kind of like a middle finger to cancer, if you will. And life changed as we knew it with our family. And before my sister died, I made her a promise that I would do something for people with cancer. Her eyes lit up. She's like, Troy, you got to do something. So we're sitting around a couple weeks later, and my friends want to throw me a divorce party. Well, if you heard the stripper story, this is going to be like farm animals and porno and everything. It's going to be a complete debauchery. And my buddy, Ray, said, Troy, you don't deal well with strippers. Remember, you made a promise to your sister that you do something for people with cancer. I'm like, shit, you're right. I didn't want to be a part of a charity. I'm kind of a person, Todd, that is out front. I want to lead with ideas, fresh ideas. I have a lot of energy. So over about 148 beers, my friends and I came up with this concept. We named the charity Life is Good No Matter What, to give adults with advanced cancer escapes and a cherished experience with their friends and family. It was an amazing charity. Problem is, I went into a 4-year issue with mania. I would sleep 2 to 3 hours a night.
Well, so let's go back real quick. So you end up paying the $20,000 stripper bill, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you paid that all. That was one. And then as your sister, and man, it's so heavy, but as your sister is getting ready to pass, your friends wanted to throw you another party, a divorce party?
Yes.
So the strippers, this is your second divorce?
I've been divorced 3 times. So
Okay.
this was my first divorce.
Okay, first,
Yeah.
I got it.
So my first divorce was to the mother of my kids, who I have a great relationship with. She's an amazing person.
Okay, so you guys get drunk and come up with a charity.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
So we're like, all right, I knew what I wanted to name it because my sister's saying was life is good no matter what. And we had to find a pretty cool, edgy concept that was different than anything else. There's lots of money for research, which is so important, Todd. Don't get me wrong. But I wanted to do something that was a little bit out of the box. And we researched, and there was nothing to help out adults and their families get an escape. So it's like Make-A-Wish for kids, but for adults.
Sure.
And we would send people to Hawaii. We'd send people to Disney World. We'd all over the country. What was crazy is we started off with $25 to our name. But I think you can appreciate this. I was obsessed. I was obsessed to not feel. Your obsession probably comes from being successful and working so hard. Mine was to not feel. I wanted to numb it. So instead of mourning my sister's loss and the divorce, I started this charity. And for 4 years, ran it. We were on TV, radio, news, you name it, everywhere. And it allowed me to do a TED Talk. And before I did the TED Talk, I didn't even know what the hell a TED Talk was.
Yeah.
And I got nominated. And it was a unanimous vote. Did the TED Talk. The founder of Priceline.com wanted to fly me out to Hollywood to meet with Pitbull to get a production on our Life is Good No Matter What, like a feel-good reality show, if you would, of what we're doing. And then I ended up coming home one day with my second wife, and I start seeing stars, and my face got really red, and I had a huge headache. Went into the hospital. My blood pressure was 220 over 160. They thought I was stroking out because for 4 years, I did nothing. I didn't sleep. I did nothing but work, be with the kids, run the charity, you name it. So what ended up happening was I took time off from the charity for about a month and a half, called up the board and said, hey, I'm ready to come back. I was itching to come back. I needed it. It was my purpose. I just loved doing it. And he said, oh, the one board member's grandma is dying, so we're not going to have a board meeting. Well, that was complete bullshit. They fired me that night. And I was in front of a very prominent person in Akron and my vice chairman, and I came back with all these ideas. I did not know at that time I was fired. So basically what happened is we sat down at a restaurant and I was coming up with all my crazy ideas. And my friend Ray said, "You were voted out last night." And this prominent person in Akron knows everybody. I was mortified. I was pissed off. I wanted to beat the shit out of the dude that lied to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening with that, Todd, is I went into some depression and anxiety, and the drinking just got more and more and more.
Yeah. Now during this time though, like with the charity and everything else, like you were still drinking there, right?
Yeah.
Like
I
that
was.
that had already started. You were
Yeah.
kind of going. Did they give you a reason why they voted you out of the charity, or still to
That
this day
is
you
such a
just don't
great
know?
question. I have tried to find out why, and through many years of therapy, I'm okay with it now. It's kind of a funny fucking story. You get fired from your own charity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like crazy. If that can happen to anybody, it can happen to me. You know, the book is wild. And they said that I was getting too much attention for the charity. I was the speaker. I would be at events, speak in front of 1,000 people, 5Ks, you name it. And I never once got a specific reason. And when you go through AA, you learn that you have to get rid of these resentments. And one of my resentments was getting fired from Life is Good No Matter What.
Yeah.
It was really tough.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I may have allegedly once been fired from a volunteer circus committee.
Are you serious?
Do you? All right, I'm about to tell you the story.
I want to hear it.
So you're familiar with the Shriners?
Yeah,
You guys
of
had some-
course.
Yeah, okay, so I've been a Mason and Shriner for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was a Bobby, right? Like I rode the little mini bikes, Bobby helmet stuff. We
Yes.
do that. We were awesome in the parade. I'm also a world champion at the slow ride and the obstacle course. All right? So don't
Really?
anybody tell you anything different. I was good. Now, being a business guy, the potentate, the one in charge of the shrine, he came and said, "Hey man, I want your business expertise. Can you help me turn the circus around?" Because the circus was like the biggest fundraiser,
Yes.
but it was failing. And we got in there, so I just, if you know anything about Shriners, like it's an old man's organization.
It is.
All right?
It
Very
totally is.
stubborn personalities.
Right.
So we get in there and I start ripping the books up. I'm tearing these books up, right? And just going through there, and I find like they had been lying to the membership about how much money they were actually making. They were stealing money, okay?
Yeah, okay.
But they were lying about the actual situation. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we made money, blah, 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 on the
Right.
circus. They weren't. It was losing money, dude.
Yeah.
And it like maybe had a year and a half left, okay?
Right.
So I'm like, dude, we got to change this whole thing up, right? Like, can't be boring anymore.
Mm-hmm.
At this time, the arena was getting ready to go through a multi-million-dollar transformation. I knew they were going to push us out because they were turning it into University of Dayton Arena.
Right.
And they were getting the first four for NCAA. So what does an arena not want? Well, they don't want stinky elephants and popcorn smells. And
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
they were getting ready to do this thing. So I knew we'd be kicked out. So I went and interviewed pretty much every circus like across the country that was big, right? I went to all kinds of circuses, negotiated a killer deal, like negotiated all these splits on all the light up stuff that they do. And I was just pissing off the leadership, right?
Right.
Like we had, let me tell you this, when we did our circus rollout meeting in the Shrine, this is one quick story and we're going to move on. People are not here to listen to me, they're here to listen to you.
No, this is great.
But
Todd.
this is so funny. Is one of the things that we had found was if I said, hey, the Shriners in the circus, what's the one thing you would associate with a Shrine circus?
Right.
What would it be?
When I think of it, I think about the people riding whatever with the helmets and stuff.
Yeah. Well, the circus, you're always going to have clowns, right?
Always have clowns.
So the Shrine, we had a clown group.
Yeah.
Like, just like we had Bobbies, we had the classic cars, the Indy cars.
Right.
There's the clowns group. Like,
Yeah.
and the only thing they had to do was the circus every year. That was their organizational
Right.
thing.
Get out of their
Well, I
clown
found
car.
that they were paying them to come to the circus. While all the other groups were required to volunteer their time at the circus, they were paying the clowns. I'm like, that's the one thing they do, right?
Yeah.
So we said, listen, we're not going to pay you anymore,
Right.
the clowns. What we are going to do is allow you to set up a photo booth at the entrance, and you'll sell pictures with the clowns, and you'll keep all of your money. You don't got to give us
Perfect.
any splits, right?
Absolutely.
They would have made $10,000 more money than what they
Wow.
would have. These guys, when we do our rollout and we're up there talking about the changes we're going to make to the circus, they all get like matching T-shirts. They ride down a limo to protest the circus committee.
Oh.
So that started off the kickoff, right? Like it was nuts.
Wow.
And then I said, we gotta bring the acts up. So there's all this tension. And the old guys that ran the circus forever, they're mad that I was calling them out about the financials and whatever, and we're not gonna change anything. Here was the straw that broke the camel's back. I said, we gotta change our events. So I went out and found the circus promoter. I ended up hiring a guy. But circus promoters have class A, class B, class C, class D acts. Well, you got to be specific about which ones you want, right? So the Class A acts, I'm like, we got to bring the kids back to the circus. So we need dirt bikes that are jumping across the arena. We need BMX bikes that are doing whatever. We need that dude that sets himself on fire and shoots out the cannon,
Every time.
right?
Every time.
Well, here's the problem. The Shriners are all about our burns hospitals. All right?
You're right.
So they all took such a crazy stance because we were going to set a guy on fire and sit him across the Now, Shrines across the country.
Right.
We're using this guy.
Yes.
All right? But they said, you really want to put a guy on fire when we're raising money for the burns hospitals? I'm like, if it raises monies for the burns hospitals,
Bigger
I
picture.
don't care,
Yes.
right? We're putting out there safe fire stuff, okay? Like, here's how you set yourself on fire, fly through the air, and you still live through it instead of end up in a hospital burned. I mean, that wasn't really a thing, but you know what I'm saying.
But yeah, you're thinking outside the box.
So they end up, whatever, and I may have said a few choice words to a couple leadership guys because none of them had financial experience.
Right.
And then I get a call that I was fired, man.
How old were you?
Man, that was probably 10 years ago.
Wow. No way.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Oh my gosh.
And
so you know what it feels like.
And I'll give you one guess whether or not that circus survived or not.
No, there's no way.
No, it didn't survive.
Exactly.
Didn't survive because people were too stubborn to get out of their own damn way.
I know. That's what happens.
So anyway, don't feel so bad about getting
Thank
fired
you.
from your charity. At least you
Yeah.
started it. I got fired from a volunteer position.
Right.
Yeah. So, kind of is what it is. So you get fired. They don't tell you why you get fired. The drinking is still going on. So then after you get fired from the charity, where do you go from there, man?
I went to some dark places. I really did. Went through my second marriage that I was not the best version of myself whatsoever. I was irritable. I knew, at that time, that was probably 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I knew I had a drinking problem, but I was in denial with it completely because I would CrossFit every day and walk in and be hungover and just sweat everything out. On paper, it looked great, but I was definitely embarrassed because when you go from every night you have an event, you're speaking, people are shaking your hands, you're doing a great job, to it being gone. And Akron's a small town. It's like 200,000 people, but everybody knows everybody. And we are the up and coming charity, and I got paid nothing for it. Like you, I got paid nothing to do it. I did it out of the kindness of my heart. We had an amazing board and everything like that. And after the second marriage, I jumped to the third marriage. Drinking was...
How long in between these marriages?
Okay. First one, we were together 16 years, signed the divorce papers, went on one date with somebody and married her because I wanted a family. I wanted that nuclear family. We got divorced shortly after that, met my third wife, and then got divorced really, really quickly because I was not the best version of myself. They didn't know what was coming through the door as far as, I never laid a hand on them or anything like that. I was just reeling from all the loss. And so what I started to do is journal. I started to journal. I got into therapy and I worked it really, really hard. And my therapist, Jude, who writes the foreword to my book, kept saying, Troy, I think you have two things. I think you have bipolar mania, and I think you're an alcoholic. So I didn't want to dull myself because you look at the comedians of the world, the people I looked up to, Chris Farley, Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle, they had an edge to them. And my edge came when I was drinking. I was funny. I was the funniest guy in the group. But unfortunately, when I talked to my therapist, she's like, I can't figure you out because you're drinking so much. You either have ADHD or bipolar 2 with mania. And I finally relented. And what happened was, Todd, I was in court in Medina, Ohio, 3 years and 101 days ago. And my son had a traffic violation, which was my fault. He didn't have the tags to his car because I was drinking. I wasn't paying attention to anything.
Yeah.
And the night before, my brother had an intervention with me. And I went out and I drank like crazy that night. My son told me I was going to be dead. I was 225 pounds, pre-diabetic, you name it. Anyways, fast forward, we're in court. They let us out. And then what happened is the bailiff came up to me and said, we smell booze on your breath. I'm like, shit. I didn't drink that morning, but I drank till like 2 a.m. the night before. Mm-hmm. And they said, they actually asked me, do you want to do a breathalyzer? I'm like, no, there's no way I want to do a freaking breathalyzer because I'm probably going to fail it. And they let me go. So my youngest son called my oldest son. My oldest son called my brother. My brother called my mom and dad. And my mom and dad called me and they said, Troy, we heard something that happened in court today. I was not proud of this because I was making horrible decisions. And I'll get into that in a little bit. And I relented that day. I relented. I went to my first AA meeting, Todd. I remember the first time I went, I cried like a baby because I had this stereotype of what an alcoholic or an addict is.
Yeah.
Under the bridge, loser, things like that. On paper, I looked great, working out, very successful. Married life sucked, but that's, what it was. And so what I decided to do is get sober, and many years, 3.5 years, I went on this journey where I really didn't date anybody. I had to be alone. And I had to figure out how to be in my own thoughts and feel the pain and not numb it with alcohol and other things. And that's where I went to AA. I went to rehab for 8 weeks and learned so much about it. Through the Cleveland Clinic, they did such a great job. I understood myself a lot more. And then I started taking therapy a lot more seriously. So then Jude's like, there's one more thing. I'm like, what? She's like, I think you got to be tested for bipolar mania. So I go in, typical in my mania state. I'm going to the doctors. They're trying to evaluate me. I have the whole freaking office laughing because that's what I did. That was my defense mechanism, if you would.
Sure.
And basically, the lady told me to sit down and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I did this test for 4 hours. I thought I'd be ADHD, and then they said, no, we're going to put you on Abilify. And I went on Abilify, and I haven't screamed or yelled in years. I haven't made poor decisions since I started. So gave up the drinking and got diagnosed with bipolar mania. And it really changed me. And Todd, it's so crazy. I thought I would be beige. That's my least favorite color, is beige, because I like to be edgy. I don't look at the world in black and white. I look at in vivid colors. I thought it would inhibit me from being my best. Little did I know I'm the best version of myself now, at peace with everything.
Yeah, one of the things that maybe you didn't talk about yet is you were, before the charity and even today, you were in sales, right?
Yes.
You mentioned it because he said you're putting you on performance, right? But so often for so many guys, and including myself over different periods, it's easy when you have a successful job, when you're making money, when you're doing things, to rationalize some of the bad decisions that you make.
You got it.
And for us in our age, right? Like we have like a 5-year age difference. You're older than me.
Right.
He's older than me. But in the generations that we grew up in, right?
Yeah.
We didn't talk about feelings.
Todd, God, you just gave me goosebumps. I was 8 years old the first time I had a panic attack. I was in my favorite teacher of my life. Still to this day, I went through college, high school, my favorite teacher in 4th grade. And you pray to every class. You went to the cross and you prayed. And I start seeing double. Then my throat closed. And I started having a complete panic attack. My parents did nothing wrong. I didn't talk to them about it. I had probably in 1 year 120 to 130 panic attacks at age 8 or 9. And I always thought I was so different than everybody, the way I looked at life. And I don't know if it's because of all the psychological issues I've had, but I get back to how I came out of the womb with spinal meningitis. It gave me this innate zest for life, to push the envelope on everything, to take risks, things like that. Like seeing your sister die at 39, it puts a lot of perspective of how precious life really is. Last time I saw Holly, my sister was in a coma. My brother picked up Holly on her head and I was on her feet. And it was just how we came into this world. My brother first, my sister, and then me, and put her in the gurney, and she went to hospice and eventually passed away a day later. That will be blazed into your mind the rest of your life.
Sure.
It really will. And it'll change you totally. And I have a very high propensity for pain. My comfort zone, as crazy as this sounds, is pain and effort. I like being calloused. What I do every year is I do something hard. I just ran 65 miles last year in an ultra marathon. I set it up myself. Two other guys and I, we ran from Akron to Milan. Took us 16 and a half hours, 65 miles. I've done half Ironmans, you name it. I've done it. And I like to push the envelope. The reason why I like to feel pain is because before I would numb it out and I'd be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Now I embrace that shit.
You know, for guys, I see social media posts all the time and hear different guys talk about it. But as we walk through life, I think often it's hard for society or public to look at strong, successful dudes and really believe that they have something that's like cooking under the skin, right?
So
something
true.
that's just sitting there. And even in like entrepreneurship, you can have multi-million-dollar companies, you know, like, and I've been there, and I like to call it like entrepreneurship, depression.
Yeah.
You know, it's a real thing. And even with like high ticket sales and things where you're writing your own ticket, you go through some periods of like depression, right? Like, and the more you do, sometimes it feels the lonelier, right?
It's so true. You feel like you're on the top of the mountain by yourself.
Yeah.
What I say is this. You've had a lot of success in your life. How are you with, I know you're interviewing me. I'm just curious. How are you with success? Do you embrace it or do you look for a new mountain right away?
I think a lot of us are wired the same. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, I have a lot of very high level friends.
Yeah.
And we all have some traits that are very, very common, right?
Yeah.
And you take this podcast, for example.
Yeah.
Why did I do a podcast?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't need a podcast.
Sure.
I had very successful businesses, but I felt like I had conquered them. So I had to conquer something else.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what some people don't understand. But that's also the difference between people that are successful in life and people that aren't. The ones that are middle class, the ones that complain about not having any money, the ones that think that America is set up against them.
Right.
That is the difference. And if somebody's looking for like, Todd, what's the one thing that sets you aside from everybody else? It's like, I have the inability to just be okay. Yeah. And I'm always looking for that next level. I'm always looking for something else. And once I conquer it, I want something else to conquer.
Oh, so I love this. You and I are so alike. When I finished my ultra marathon, 65 miles, it's a split second to finish line. That's it. But the journey and all the injuries, I ran with 4 fractures in my knee, and I have still to this day I have bone marrow that's out of my knee, like a dam. You know, my bone.
Yeah.
I ran with it. I finished, and they're like, how do you? I was like, I got 20 more miles in me. I got to do 100. One of the things I want to work on, Todd, is enjoying my successes a little bit more, but it also drives me to get to that mountain again and look down and say, I got a new mountain. You know, I can embrace success for like 5-10 minutes, and then I'm looking for something else like you.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of, you know, especially in men.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in men. And I run into some women that are the same way. But typically the mental side of it is completely different for guys. They're just wired completely different. You know, and I think for us, you know, it's not hard for us to get into a spot where we have this empty feeling inside of us no matter what we're doing in life. And what you're describing, having something to have success with, we're trying to fill that up, you know? And
yes,
the problem though is we're taught not to talk about that. We're taught not to talk about how we feel.
I know.
You know, I'm gonna throw my wife under the bus sometime, right?
Yeah.
I love her to death. She's an amazing woman, right? And she'll talk to me sometimes like, hey, I'm having issues with this, or like, I don't like how we're doing this, or like, hey, we need to come back together on this, like, you know, whatever, because we're busy people. And I'll sit there and listen, and I'm, you know, rub her hair and very emotional.
Right.
And then every once in a while I'll be like, babe, I think you're being snappy with me. Like, I don't feel like you're loving me the way you should today.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, just shut up.
Right.
She goes, really? You know, I'm like, well, I'm not allowed to have emotions now. I'm the guy. you know.
That's the way we were raised, Todd.
And she's great, and we'll go back and we'll have a phenomenal talk.
Yeah.
But it's just the stigma with society is guys can't talk about deep shit. And that's what drives me nuts.
I know.
And we need more guys like you that are out there talking about this.
Yeah, and not to put a shameless plug about my book, but Beautifully Dysfunctional is for anybody that has been through trauma and what not to do. Like what I did when my sister died and went through my divorce with my first wife, I just pushed it to the side. I just worked. How many times you talk to guys, oh, I'm just going to work through it. That's exactly what I did. In the book, Beautifully Dysfunctional, people are like, dude, you got knocked down on the mat of life a lot. I never once felt sorry for myself. I just thought life was supposed to be this way. I almost had a chip on my shoulder. And with this book, I talk about everything. And I hope it will. The people that have read it so far said it really resonates and they see themselves. I'm really trying to help a group of people get through some really hard times. That's one of my goals in the book is so people don't feel alone.
Yeah. Now, what was the thing that allowed you to kick the addiction? Was there a habit? Was there a skill? Was there a trait? Was there, like, for a lot of people out there that might be struggling with some type of addiction, whatever that addiction is, what was your thing that allowed you to break it?
You know, for the longest time, Todd, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Like every stereotype for the movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't look at myself because I was making horrible decisions. I'll give you a quick story, then I'll get back to your question. One time I got so drunk, I ordered a hot tub online. 14,000, don't remember doing it. And they kept calling me. I'm like, what the hell? Why is this hot tub place calling me? And they were in my neighborhood and they knocked on my door. They're like, you ordered a $14,000 hot tub. We want to install it. That's how bad my drinking was. It was getting so bad. And you would think a story like that would keep you to pump the brakes.
Yeah.
When I was in court that day, looking at my son, my youngest son, and the disappointment he had in me, that look I'll never forget. And I had wanted to quit for 6 months before it, probably a year before it, but I was in denial. The thing about addiction, what people need to understand, you got to do it for yourself. Addiction's a very self-centered and selfish way of living life, and we learn this in AA. But you have to be selfish in that regard and say, I got to do it for myself because the other dominoes are falling into place.
Yeah. Because
once you get sober, your kids come back to you. Your family comes back to you. They start trusting you. When my kids, it was probably a year into my sobriety, they start looking at me and they started to trust me again. Before that, they didn't. Because I'd be 4 days sober, a week sober, whatever. But it takes intense intestinal fortitude to be sober. And you got to admit that you're powerless over alcohol and give it up to a higher power. I have 3 higher powers. My Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, my sister Holly, and my 2 sons. And I think about them every day. And a part of that is gratitude. When you have gratitude and no resentments, you can get through it. Go to AA meetings, stack days, get a sponsor, work through it. And the best word I can use is be accountable. There's no excuses when it comes to it anymore. Because where I was, everybody had lost trust in me. Everybody. So I dug my heels down that day and said, I'm not going to drink for today. Because I think the biggest mistake somebody can say, Todd, is I'm never going to have a drink the rest of my life. Holy shit, that's a long time.
Right.
Let's work through it today. And I was such a bad alcoholic, I had to work at it minute by minute because it was creeping. The dog was barking. Come on, Troy, you're drinking wine and White Claws, you're fine. You hooked up with a 400-pounder, who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Making horrible decisions, spending tons of money. It's one day at a time. That sounds like a cliche, but it's so damn true. And reach out for help. Get a therapist. My therapist is a drug and alcohol counselor. And Jude completely changed my life. She was a velvet hammer to me. Sometimes you need tough love.
Yeah. Now, you've been sober 3 years, 102 days.
Yeah.
As the time we're recording this right now.
Yeah.
What is the thing that you struggle with the most with sobriety right now?
Great question. I have generalized anxiety disorder, also on top of a slew of shit. I would say, and this is going to sound really weird, Todd, I go into the storm. I don't avoid it. And what I mean by that is I still go to bars. I know at people watching, this is totally against everything, but I don't go to bars to drink. I think as alcoholics, we have to accept that every place on the face of the earth, even church, serves wine. There's booze out there, and you have to accept that and not drink. I embrace it, and I try to help people with it. My biggest issue is my anxiety. And sometimes I'm like, God, it'd be nice to numb that right now.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice to do that. And then it's funny, Todd, for the ultra marathon, it really brought things in my sobriety into place. We would start out at 9 o'clock at night and run till 6 a.m. on the weekends, every weekend. And we'd go by the bars that I used to come out of at 2 a.m. And I'd see people coming out. And I'm like, that was me. And it was such a reinforcement of sobriety. I mean, if you ever thought like I could run an ultra marathon, 65 miles with what I was doing to my body. And that's another thing. And I think you can relate to this. People want to overthink things. They want to, to be successful in life. Sometimes you don't need a plan B. I'll give you an example. I wrote a book. I didn't know what I was doing. I just wrote a book. I did a TED Talk. I didn't even know what a TED Talk was. Started a charity. Did an ultra marathon. Planning is very important, but sometimes you just got to fucking do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so big. Let me ask you this. I've never asked anybody this on the show that you said you're Catholic.
Yeah. Was Catholic.
Was Catholic.
Yes.
Okay, well, good. Then you won't be afraid to answer this.
Yeah.
My son goes to a private school. He's in Catholic school. I'm not Catholic, never been Catholic. Sure. I was raised Southern Baptist.
Wow, yeah.
But one of the things, and I'm not dogging the religion, okay?
Right.
Because like Catholic, like you believe in pretty much the same thing. It's just how you practice it, right? And that's a lot of religions. But in the Catholic side of things, they drink a lot.
A ton.
Like the
Bingo
biggest
night.
The biggest fundraiser is
Always.
this big festival with beer tents and things like that. And I guess, how should we view that as society, right? Is the Catholic religion, is it creating alcoholics within the church?
There is a lot of drinking in Catholicism. Growing up in a farming community in Fremont, Ohio, everything we did, we drank around. Funerals, weddings, birthdays, first communions. I remember my first communion, we had Father Paul Mueller out. He's like, do you got the fixin' for a Manhattan to my dad? And he got shit-faced.
Yeah.
Drove home, It's a rite of passage almost. And it sounds pretty crazy to say that. I'm 51 years old. I don't want to be bragging how drunk I was last night, but that's what goes on. These fundraisers, they're meant to get you drunk because you're going to have liquid courage and spend a ton of money for the school. My sons went to Walsh Jesuit. They went to Jesuit school. Same thing. And every fundraiser we had, there was kegs of beer, an open bar, and always in every single fundraiser, there was a bucket of booze that you could win. Mm-hmm. I mean, the list goes on and on. I still love the Catholic religion, but I'm not Catholic. I know that sounds weird. I found a Christian church that matched what I needed for my sobriety. The pastor has a very soft heart for those that are alcoholics and drug addicts, and he speaks to it because a lot of his family is. I think it's enabling people, to be honest with you, these fundraisers and things like that, because when people drink, they do stupid shit.
Yeah.
When people smoke weed, I've never seen somebody get into an argument or a fight with people. And I don't smoke weed. I'm not California sober. I am all of it. But there's something to say about it. And it gets out of hand. I know who I was when I drank. I became very insecure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've always wondered that. I don't know why I've never asked anybody that, but at such a young age, if somebody grows up Catholic, it's normalized in the church. And they're around it all the time. And I'm thinking like, I don't know. I think that's why I can never. Now, at the time, I didn't like growing up Baptist.
Yeah.
Because it was a very strict environment,
Sure.
right? And very dry environment. Like it wasn't a fun church service.
Right,
We didn't have
right.
whatever. And I guess I kind of always admired the Catholic Church, So I'm like, man, those guys are having fun.
They're the cool
They're
church.
drinking.
Yes.
They're having fundraisers. They're walking around with street corn and and throwing balls into aquariums with fish to win goldfish. Like,
yes.
they had so much fun. But now as I'm an adult, I'm thinking, like, is that sending the wrong message at an early age, right? And I think you can do whatever you want, right? It doesn't matter to me. I'm not beating up Catholics.
No, I get it.
I'm just saying, if kids grow up in that environment, they grow up thinking like this is okay.
That's what I did. I did, and here's what's weird is I played 4 sports in high school, and like I told you before when we were out in the room, I sucked at every sport, but I never drank in high school. Not a drop. Nothing. I was a designated driver. And it was around me all the time. People just wanted to party their asses off, left and right. It was always around, and I do not put people down at all for drinking, you know what I mean? I don't judge them if they have a problem, because I had a problem, and I still do. It's every day is a fight to stay sober.
Yeah.
You can't lose that edge. You got to be on top of your game, go to your meetings, things like that.
Yeah. Now I drink socially.
Yeah.
But kind of funny timing, but my wife's sister turned 50. We went to her birthday party this past weekend, and I drank too much.
Mm-hmm.
But I said to my wife the next day, I said, I don't have any, like it's not enjoyable anymore, right? And I hadn't had like a buzz or a tipsy feeling in probably 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
Just because I don't sit around, like you won't find beer in my house. I
Right.
mean, you would in a fridge somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't sit around and drink with dinner. Like
Sure.
I'll go months without drinking.
Yes.
Because it's just not something that I do. And if I do, maybe I have like 1 glass at dinner or something at a restaurant. And I felt so horrible the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Not physically, like I'm fine. Like I wasn't hungover or anything, but I felt so horrible. I'm like, I didn't even enjoy the night because I made the decision to drink. And I had been so intentional over the last several months that's like, I just don't enjoy it anymore,
Yeah.
And even with my friends, we go to the lake all the time and get drunk, and I'm like, it's just not fun to me anymore. Like I'm just at that age where like I've never been addicted to alcohol.
Right.
I've never, that's not been in my DNA. Although my dad was an alcoholic.
Was he?
Yeah, he was an alcoholic. He stopped drinking when I was 6 years old, and then he never drank again until a couple months before he died.
No,
And
really?
And we didn't have a great relationship.
Sure.
I mean, he was around, he was in my life, but it wasn't a great relationship. But I remember when he came home after he had like an aneurysm bust and almost passed away. Came home and I went over to his house. He still lived in the trailer that I grew up in, and he had a Budweiser sitting there. And I was a little irritated. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you're an addict. You're recovered, right? And he said, son, I'm getting ready to die. He said, and the one thing I enjoyed in my life was drinking. He's like, so right before I get ready to go out, I want to enjoy life. He's like, what am I going to do? He's like, I'm too frail to. I'm too frail to beat your mom.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't. He's like, I'm an old man. It's not like I'm going to go out and get women.
Yeah.
He's like, if I want to sit here on my porch and have a beer, now that I'm 70 years old or whatever, he's like, I'm gonna do it.
Wow.
But I remember at a young age the stories. I mean, even here in Dayton, I remember the call that my mom got when I was little. The police, she had to go pick my dad up because he went down by the riverbank. It was wintertime, and he sat on his tailgate with a couple cases of beer just drinking. And he got robbed, and they took his clothes and made him walk out on the frozen river. And they took all of his clothes, took all of his beer, took his wallet, took all his money, and we had to go pick him up as a kid. And I remember so many of those stories. So for me, it was kind of opposite, right? Like people say, like, hey, if you have like alcoholism in your family and things like that, like I think that's why I've never believed, and this could be completely contrary to what you believe.
Sure.
But I don't believe that addiction is a disease.
It's a fine line.
Yeah.
It's so funny. You're taught preaching to the choir, because when I got my mind made up to do it, I quit.
Yeah.
I quit. I don't know. I don't know if there's a gene. You know what I mean? But everybody I hung out with, we partied our asses off.
Yeah.
Oh. And what happened, Todd, is it's a cliche, but it's true. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
Just making horrible decisions after horrible decisions.
Yeah, it happens. You know, I mean, it happens to so many good people. I never wanted to be like my dad.
Yeah.
So that always drove me not to do
Right.
that. Like, and I've always experienced self-control. And I think for me, even as a young man, when I was 21, 22, 23, like in my partying days, for me, I would always do tests. Like I would say, I'm not going to drink the entire month just to see if I had control over it.
Right.
And I always did. I never had an issue with alcohol. Now, other things in my life, I have an addictive personality. There's other things in my life that I've battled and struggled with. But I really do think it's a decision. And like you said, like you have to decide that I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm not going to do this anymore, right? Because there's no like magic pill out there that makes you stop being an alcoholic.
You're exactly right. There's no magic pill. I believe in the program, AA, very, very much. To me, that's your accountability chapter.
Yeah.
Because we call them the old timers. They will call you out. People with 40, 50 years of sobriety. They've seen and heard it all. And I just got to a point, and I made it's like anything in my life. I live in extremes, and this was a good extreme to live in as far as getting sober.
Yeah. Now we talked earlier, and you've been writing a book for 14 years.
14 years,
right?
Yeah.
And we have it sitting here, Beautifully Dysfunctional. The first question I have for you is the cover of your book. If you guys can't see it, we'll put a picture up later. Beautifully Dysfunctional is you sitting in a wife beater on a toilet.
It's it's sexy, that's for sure. So the reason why I did that is because before I got sober, my life was a shit show. And so I'm on the toilet. And I wanted a cover, Todd, that would grab people's attention. I unknown, you know, I'm Troy Hasslinger. Like nobody's knows who I am. I needed to grab some attention. I thought, damn, this would be really good. And it was so funny. The photographer, when I was at his house, I get all on the shitter. He's like, God, the things I do for money. And I wanted an edgy photo, and I also wanted the words, married 3 times, one-eyed bastard, cancer, alcohol. I wanted people to look at this is me. And I think people can relate to a lot of it, to be honest with you. But there were people in my life that did not want me to come out with a book because of the cover.
Yeah. Assuming family members.
Yeah.
And what was the problem with the cover? They just thought it was a bad look, bad image?
Yes. And I have an amazing family. I'm so blessed. I have a great relationship with my family. I think they were trying to protect me because I've had impulsivity issues in the past, which are gone now because I'm being treated for my mania. They were worried about what would corporate America think of it. And let me tell you about corporate America, because I've been in it for 30 years. There's a lot of people that could be sitting on that cover also.
Yeah.
With alcohol and drugs and things like that. Sales is running and gunning all the time. And basically, it's a high-pressure job. I love it. It's really important, I feel. So I said, Todd, I'm going to burn the boats. Tony Robbins always talks about burning the boats, right? This is who I am. I mean, the chapters in there are so raw, so unfiltered. I personally think it's the most honest book ever written. And people will see themselves in that book.
Yeah. Now, what took you so long to finish it up?
So,
besides part of the time, like, we say 14 years. Well, part of that, like 11 years of that, you were still an alcoholic. You were still going through your alcoholism stuff.
Yeah, and mania.
Yeah.
I was never writing a book, but what happened is my therapist said, start journaling. So I love to write. It's one of the things that I'm pretty good at. It's very soothing to me to write. Start writing. I'm talking to my therapist. She goes, read me some of your journal. Sure. I have my therapist. She started hearing these stories, and she's like, Troy, have you ever thought about coming out with a book? Not only is it funny, but you could really help people. So I just kept writing, come back to it, be hungover, couldn't write. I was in a state of mania one day, and in one day I wrote 25,000 words. That's how bad my mania was. And I kept thinking to myself, who's me? Who's Troy Hasslinger? Nobody's going to want to buy this book. So I start shopping it around to my friends and to publishers and things like that. And when I had the manuscript done, and this was probably 2 years ago, people are like, holy shit, Troy, like Hillbilly Zoo, the things that happened to your animals growing up, you're ripping your taint and balls in half, shit is there. And they're like, you got to do this. You got to come out with it. So 2 years ago, I met this lady, Natalie June Riley, out of Texas, out of nowhere. Kyle Overmeyer introduced me to her. And she started reading the book, and she's like, out of all the books I've ever edited, Troy, this has the biggest potential. I said, why? She said, you're so honest. I said, I don't know if I want to come out with it.
Yeah.
She's like, you have to. And she said something I'll never forget. She goes, this is a letter to your family. I'm like, wow. That was pretty profound. Like, this is who I am. These are the struggles that I had. I remember when I lost my job, I was fired, and I was riding with my sons to the Kalahari in Sandusky. They said, Dad, why do you fail so much? And why are you so, at the same time, resilient? If there's one takeaway from that book, you're going to see that I'm very resilient. And I start talking about our family. My dad lost his father at age 9 to pancreatic cancer. My nieces and nephew lost their mom to cancer at age 39. I survived spinal meningitis. My uncle had a heart transplant. I said, we may fail, and I may fail. I may fail big. If I'm going to fail, I'm failing big.
Yeah.
Because I put some effort into it. But the successes, people want a comeback story. And that's exactly what Beautifully Dysfunctional is.
Yeah. So somebody picks up your book and they read it, man. What is your hope?
Yeah.
That they get from it, that how it helps them? Like, what do you hope people get if they open this book up and really give it a try?
You're not alone. I felt alone for so many years. Not from my family. I isolated myself. I did. I was ashamed of myself for many years. I want people to read this and not feel alone. And I can only tell you from the feedback I've gotten from readers, and they said, Troy, I went through this, and I didn't know how to handle it. Troy, I went through this. I didn't know how to handle it. You wrote it. You helped me. I want people to not feel alone, because that way they can be their best version of themselves. Yeah. That's it.
I tell you, I think you're on it, man. You're onto something there with the honesty.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple of years ago when I first started really speaking on stages across the country, I told a story, a part of my life that was trauma and painful. And what I didn't realize, I'd never talked about it. Nobody knew this part of my life. And after I got on that stage and I talked about it, I found out that there was a quiet population out there that wanted to get it out, that wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Grown men, 6'7", 6'8", crying on my shoulders. Now they had to lean down 1.5 feet because I'm 5'6".
Right.
But like there was just this quiet population that was holding so many traumatic things in, especially men that didn't feel like they could talk about it because they've been told that you couldn't for so long. And the world needs people like that. The world needs people like that aren't afraid to tell the truths.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see it a little bit more.
I agree with that.
Like Kid Rock, I don't know if you saw his post in front of his plane that says "My Truths," and he talked about being 300 days sober.
Is he really?
No, I don't know. I mean, it was from his page. I don't know if that was real or not, but that's what it said.
I know he struggled, you know what I mean, with it, and really was trying to get everything straight.
And you think about it, right? Like you have guys like that like he's on top of the world. He's making crazy amounts of money. I mean, I've been at his house, hanging out with him.
Yes.
And seen the amazing environment that he has, and to know that he has that lonely feeling inside too. He's struggling too, just like any of us.
And that's that. Thank you for saying that, Todd, because that's really what I want people to take away, that they're not alone. That when you think you got it bad, read this book and you'll figure out how to get through it. You know, one of the things is that I used to make fun of myself is I lost my eye. They call me the one-eye bastard. That's on the cover. And I would make fun of myself. And 22 surgeries and 17 years of chronic pain, I never showed anybody any emotion with that whatsoever. Yeah. And I'm not saying you got to lose your eye to whatever, but women have mastectomies from breast cancer. That's a big deal. 3 of my friends have 1 testicle. They've survived testicular cancer. Losing a body part it's kind of crazy if you think about it. My point is, to your point, is that the more as men we can talk about this, the more open we can be, man, sky's the limit. We don't have to be macho at all. Yeah. We could just have to be, I don't know, vulnerable.
Vulnerable is a key word.
Yeah.
And too many are allowed. You know, so many people confuse vulnerability with weakness.
I know.
And that's what makes it a struggle for many people.
Yeah.
You know, and at least across my platforms, I try to provide a platform like I still to this day, right? Like I have hundreds of thousands of followers. I get so many messages every single day.
Yeah.
I still respond to everybody.
Do you really?
Personally.
Good for you.
Not my team. Now, I might have some AI stuff that does the initial stuff.
Yeah, but it goes a long way,
But if
Todd.
it's a legit message, I respond to everybody. And I'll tell you one of the things that I didn't anticipate. A couple years ago when I started out on my social media journey, you know, I'm a real estate guy. I'm in the healthcare space. I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. I'm an author. I mentor a lot of people, but not everybody knows everything about me. So to blow up the social media, we focused a lot on real estate because we had squatters, we had addicts, we had homeless people.
Sure.
And it was the easiest videos to kind of get to go viral. What I didn't anticipate when I started growing a personal brand was the type of audience that I would get. And in that, because most of the squatters that we encountered or people on our properties were addicts or were homeless, and I have a big heart, right? Like I always wanted to help them at the end. I try to get them to treatment. I try to, you know, get them food, make sure they're okay. I talk to them like they're humans instead of being some asshole that's out there. But because I treated people that way, I have this huge community of addicts that follow me and send me messages all the time. And man, there's crazy story. I'm gonna tell it and see if I can get through it. And I'm gonna paraphrase most of it.
Yeah.
But it was probably about 3 weeks ago, and this isn't the first time I've had a message like this. But I had a guy, I hadn't responded to his messages because I thought they were like trying to sell me on his food truck.
Right.
Okay. And I kind of ignored it because I thought it was just, you know, a sales type thing. And I won't respond to those.
Sure.
But anyway, he ends up sending me a message, very long, couple paragraphs, and telling me about his life story and some of the different things that he'd went through. And basically, it was like a year ago, and he told me he was going to take his life. And
oh no,
like he said, I was sitting there with a gun in my hand. He's like, I pulled the trigger and it didn't go off. And
oh my God, I have
and I'm paraphrasing this right from what he said in my messages, my DMs. And he said, but for some reason, I don't know why the gun didn't go off when I pulled the trigger, but I got on social media and it was the first time I saw one of your videos. And I saw the way that you dealt with the people that was in your video, and it told me that there's still hope with society. And he's like, and I've been following you ever since, and you keep me positive. He's like, I've built a food truck now. I'm doing really, really well. I have my own business. I have whatever. And even now, I look at some of these messages that I get, and I talk about a lot on stages. We never know what our impact to others is going to be.
Yeah.
And for you, you're clean now.
Yeah.
You wrote a book.
Yeah.
You're still doing sales.
Right.
You are trying to live this life, but how many conversations will you have over the next decade that you don't even realize the impact that you're going to have on other human beings?
I know. It's so funny. I was talking to my wife, Michelle, yesterday, and by the way, that story, I have goosebumps. That's amazing. Great. That makes me feel so good. I said, it really hasn't hit me yet. And I'm like, she's like, Troy, you got to enjoy the journey. And I am. But seeing me on that cover and hearing people come back to me and say, this book has changed my life. That's the guts. That's what I'm looking for. You know, I think I told you out there, I'm going to New York for book tour, and I'm going to be on billboards in New York City. And anybody listening or watching, let me tell you something. I manifested that shit. I visualized that I would be on billboards in New York City. And I just feel, especially for addicts, when you're in the trenches, there's a way out. There really is. If I can do it, Todd, anybody can freaking do it. They can. I was at my last wit. If I'd have picked up another drink, I mean, my doctor actually told me, I always have one person like you a year, Troy, comes in and drops dead on me. I was doing triathlons, all that other shit. He goes, there's always one person that drops. He goes, your drinking's out of control and your blood pressure's out of control, this and that, because of the drinking. In a nutshell, if I can do it, anybody can. Yeah. And I just hope this book allows people a little respite from their daily life and kind of see themselves and reach out to me, DM me like the gentleman did with you at the food truck, because it feels so good that you can actually have a form to help people.
Yeah. Well, manifestation is so key in the world now, right?
Right.
Now, I'll be honest, do I believe that as we manifest and we just see stuff, it just magically happens? No.
I agree.
I'm going to be honest. But what I do believe is that when we manifest what we want in our life, that gives us no choice to be intentional with what we want to accomplish.
Right.
And then it just seems like it shows up.
Is that not the wildest thing?
You know?
It really does. I mean, just things I've done in my life and that I'm really proud of. And it was a lot of visualization. I meditate a lot. I got into that through AA. And it's visualization with action. That's the key. Visualization with action. So many people don't enjoy their jobs. Find your passion. I don't care what it is. And go for it. And just do it.
Yeah. Now we were talking a little bit earlier, and I think you're just getting ready to kind of open up your kind of coaching, right?
Yes.
So people can reach out to you if they want to DM you on social media.
Yes.
What is your social media?
Facebook is Troy Hasslinger. Instagram, I have two: author Troy Hasslinger and at Troy / hyphen Hasslinger.
And we'll put all your links down in the in the description. But if you guys want to work with Troy and you want somebody in your corner, you want somebody to take your back, you want somebody to help you through some of the difficult times in your life, you can hook up with my guy. We'll put all of his links down below. But man, this book, Beautifully Dysfunctional, where can everybody grab the book at?
Yeah, this is wild. All right. So right now it's at barnesandnoble.com, Amazon, and 10 other platforms. But I'm really proud to say Barnes & Noble reached out to me, and we're going into partnership. And in September, it's going to be in every store in the United States. I can't make this shit up. It's just, it's crazy. It's a dream come true.
Nice. I love it, man. I love it. So what else? What's next for you?
That's a great question. I work full time in molecular diagnostics. I love my job. I love my wife. I love my kids. But I think the question you're asking is, what's the next thing I'm going to do that's hard? All right. I'll admit, my wife is a 10. And she's gorgeous.
Now, this is your fourth wife, right? Okay, I just want to make sure that we got that clear.
This is the fourth wife, and she is Michelle's her name. Michelle's a former bodybuilder who, at age 50, won her last competition.
Nice.
I'll show you a picture of her. She is, and when I said my vows to her, it's easy to look at Michelle, and I'm sure you can relate this with your wife. It's easy to look at them and say, wow, they're so beautiful and this and that. But it's their embodiment of goodness, their heart and their soul that attracts me. And that's what attracted me to Michelle so much. So the next hard thing I'm doing is I'm going to go into bodybuilding. I've never done this before, but she is going to be my coach, and I want to do one show. So for the next 10 months, it's no sugar, no fun, but just working out. And it's going to be an awesome journey. I'm not that type of person to go out and like, hey, here are my muscles and things like that. But she challenged me, and so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I like to do all sorts of different shit.
Yeah, I got a feeling that you're going to have ultra success with it. I get that from you. I get that
Thank
from
you.
your personality. So
Thank you, Todd.
I look forward to watching your journey, man. And that's what's so cool about this show.
Yes.
And speaking and being around the country is I get to meet so many incredible people like you and realize how many uniquely interesting stories there are with all of the different entrepreneurs around the world that so many people just don't get to hear about, right?
I know they don't. They don't have a forum. And I just want to say on a side note, keep up doing the great work. I love your podcasts. I watched, like I said, Black Label. But what you allow people to do is be themselves. And that is a beautiful thing. Because in a world where people are kind of tight and don't want to really expose who they are, you allow that. And that goes a long way. And that's going to help a ton of people, Todd.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you coming down to Dayton, Ohio today. We're going to put all of his links down below. Make sure you guys hook up with our guy, Troy. And make sure you go get the book. Go to Barnes & Noble's, Beautifully Dysfunctional. And I'm sure that if you were to send him your book and hook up with him, he'd send you one back that's autographed. So make sure you guys go there. And hey, if you are dealing with anything in your life, you know that my forum, my platforms, they're always safe for you guys. But until next time, we'll see you.
Hold up. Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong.